Over the next several days, we're going to be learning about pedigrees. Pedigrees are another model to show how genetic traits are passed from one generation to the next. So we were looking at Punnett squares, and Punnett squares show how traits are passed from two parents or even one parent to their offspring. But a pedigree shows you multiple generations, so your great-grandparents to your grandparents to your parents and then to you. So pedigrees are often similar to a family tree. Here's a quick family tree that I did of my family. So my parents, me, my husband's parents, him, and then our two kids. So this just shows who's related to who, either by blood or by marriage. And then their kids, and things would be added to them as my kids got older and got married and had children of their own. We could add on aunts, uncles, and they just show how people are related to each other. But a pedigree is going to show us different traits and how traits flow from one generation to another, or possibly even skip a generation before they show up again. So they allow geneticists to study how traits flow. And most of the time, they look at pedigrees to determine different mutations that may happen in a family, and these mutations may be harmful, and that's kind of what they're looking for, is to see where it started and kind of where it might go. So here's a simple pedigree that I drew, and these Roman numerals, this is Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3, are what tells us the different generations. So you can refer to it as generation 1, 2, and 3. We could go out 4, 5, 6, and we would use Roman numerals to show the different generations. The circles and squares are also other symbols that we're going to talk about or get to shortly, because they'll tell us if the individual is a male or a female. These vertical lines are important, and so aren't these horizontal lines. So this is a quick image of a pedigree. And shaded versus non-shaded symbols are important as well. So here are my notes that I wrote on pedigrees. So quick, we have this important symbol. The square is a male, and the circle is a female. If they're shaded in, that means they have the trait. The trait is expressed through their phenotype that we're looking at. So it could simply be the recessive trait. It could even be a dominant trait. Or like I said earlier, it could be a specific disorder that might result in some sort of different phenotype, such as color blindness or hemophilia, which is something to do with the shape of your blood cells. So again, this is like one generation, and this is showing their offspring. So this is a simple sort of pedigree that we're looking at, okay? And they track one trait. They don't track more than one. So again, the shaded individuals show the ones that have the trait. So this is generation 1, generation 2. This shows this horizontal line, again, shows who's married, and the vertical line shows you all the children that they've had or are having. And then here is the pedigree again that I showed you in my notes, and we're going to look at it more closely as we go through looking at pedigrees. We'll do some pedigrees with our gummy bear genetics as we move through this part. Now you're going to try to figure out the genotype of each individual in this pedigree. It's a simple pedigree with only two generations, generation 1 and generation 2. So again, the shaded ones are the individuals that have the trait, okay? So in this case, it's the recessive trait. So it's going to be no spots. In the individuals that have the non-shaded shapes or non-shaded shapes have green spots, okay? So what I want you to do is go back and see if you can figure out what the genotype is each individual, and you're going to write this on your note sheet where it asks you to draw this pedigree, and then you're going to write the alleles or genotype for each individual. So you already know which ones are recessive. Remember, the ones with the shaded shape are our recessive traits. So these ones have no spots, whereas these individuals have spots. But what is their genotype? Because remember, when you have a dominant genotype, it can either be two capital letters or a capital letter and a lowercase letter.